You know that moment when you hit Save As on a project and you're just staring at a list of options? JPEG, TIFF, PSD. What's the difference, right? Well, you're definitely not alone. It can be super confusing, but figuring this out is the secret to making your work look amazing, whether it's online or on a printed page.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. The whole issue really boils down to this one fundamental conflict in the digital world. It's a constant tug-of-war between getting the absolute best quality and getting the fastest possible speed. You almost never get both at the same time, and that, right there, is the heart of our one-file problem.
And that leads to the question that, let's be honest, we've all asked ourselves. Come on, why can't I just save one file and use it for everything? I mean, it would be so much simpler. But as we're about to see, trying to use a single file for every single situation just means you're making a pretty big compromise somewhere along the line.
So what's the solution? Well, the trick is to stop thinking of it as one world. You're actually dealing with two totally different worlds, and each one has its own set of rules and its own needs. You've got the world of print, and you've got the world of the web. Let's really break that down. When you're dealing with print, the only thing that matters is pure, perfect quality. You need a super high resolution, we're talking 300 dots per inch, or DPI, to get a really sharp, detailed image on paper. But for the web, it's all about speed. A giant file will slow a website down to a crawl, so the standard is way, way lower, just 72 DPI. See, screens can only show so many pixels, so any extra data is just, well, it's wasted. It just slows everything down for zero visual benefit. So if you want to win in both of these worlds, you're going to need the right tools. I want you to think of these different file formats not as a confusing mess, but as your own specialized toolkit. Each tool is perfectly designed for a very specific job. So let's open up that toolbox. First up, and this is the most important one, is the PSD. This is your master file, your original blueprint. It keeps all of your layers, all your edits, everything completely intact so you can always go back and make changes. You never, ever, ever want to lose this file. Seriously, guard it with your life. Okay, next in our toolkit is the TIFF. This is our print heavyweight. This format is built for one thing and one thing only: quality. It barely compresses the image at all, so it holds on to all that rich, beautiful detail you need for a 300 DPI print job. So what's the catch? The file size is absolutely massive.
And in the other corner, we have the web sprinter, the JPEG. This file is basically the polar opposite of the TIFF. It is heavily compressed to create a tiny, tiny file size that makes it perfect for loading in a flash on websites, in emails, or on social media. Now, while these two are the main players, your toolkit also has other specialists, like a PNG file, which is fantastic for any graphics that need a transparent background.
So we've met our heavyweight and our sprinter. Now let's see just how dramatic this trade-off between file size and image quality really is. Prepare yourself. Just look at these numbers. They're from the exact same project. The print-ready TIFF file is almost 13 megabytes. Now look at the web-ready JPEG. It's only 120 kilobytes. That's not just a little smaller, it is over 100 times smaller. That is the kind of difference that can make or break how fast a website loads.
Right, so this brings up a pretty obvious question. How on earth is that even possible? What kind of black magic is happening to make a file shrink that much when you save it as a JPEG?
Well, the answer comes down to one word: compression. When you compress an image to make a JPEG, the software is literally removing bits of data from the file. It intelligently throws away information it thinks your eyes won't really notice. The result is a much, much smaller file, but it also means you've permanently lost some of the original quality. So, just to sum it all up nice and neat, TIFF is for print. That means you get high quality, but a massive file. JPEG is for the web. That means you get a tiny file size, but you're making a trade-off on quality. See? It's always about choosing the right tool for the job.
Okay, so now that we get the why, let's talk about the how. Knowing all of this, what's the right process to make sure you're always picking the correct file for whatever you're working on?
It's actually a pretty simple and really effective workflow you can follow every time. First, always save your master PSD file. Then, from that master file, you export a high-quality TIFF for print. When you need a web version, go back to your original PSD, crop and resize it, knock the resolution down to 72 DPI, and then export that smaller version as a compressed JPEG.
Look, if you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. The goal is never to find the one best file type, because honestly, it doesn't exist. The crucial point is to choose the right file for the right job every single time.
So this all leads to a really interesting final thought. This whole system we've talked about is built around the limitations of today's internet speeds and screen resolutions. But what happens in the future? As our internet gets lightning fast and our screens start to have the same quality as a printed page, will this whole distinction even matter anymore? Could we one day live in a world where we only need that one perfect, high-quality file for everything? It's definitely something to think about.